Coach Deborah has a passion and purpose to assist young men, ages 15 to 24, to overcome obstacles and build their best lives. She wants to see every young man live out their potential. She has a master's degree in human services counseling, with a major in life coaching. More importantly, she is the mother of 3 boys, who are exceptional, educated, professional men. Coach Deborah believes it is better to train early, rather than need to fix later. She utilizes basic principles and God-led concepts. Sometimes the only thing a young man has is their credibility or their name. The actions they take are based on the decisions they make. Those decisions align with their choices and result in consequences. Coach Deborah can assist you if you are lost, floundering, or confused. Embrace the help and start building your best life today.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Build Your Best Life with Coach Deborah D. Smith. I am super excited, as always, to be here today as we talk about reaching out for solid education this month. Education is essential to our future. If our students are not out there getting the best education, hey, we will not be thriving and striving as we need to. And my special guest is Minister Carol Crockett. How are you today, Carol?
Hey, sis, I'm wonderful today, and thank you for having me again here.
Always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. Good evening, Dan. Thank you for tuning in. Well, as I stated, we are talking about education this month, and this month is just like the rest of them, is quickly passing us by. I cannot believe it is the 22nd. But today, Carol and I are going to be talking about styling. But before we go into that, we want you to make sure that you like, comment, and share as we go along. Anything that you want to comment on, you have different thoughts or views, just let us know. But please make sure that you like, and share so others can get this content. And if you have not subscribed me on YouTube, please go to my YouTube page, which is Build Your Best Life with Deborah D. Smith, and subscribe to that as well. But Carol, you know, we always have some new people out here. Can you please tell everybody what's going on with you, what's new and everything? We love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you, Deborah. Yes, absolutely. Just a little bit about me. I am here in hot Mesquite, Dallas, Texas. I'm a native of Dallas. I'm a wife to Frank Crockett. I'm a proud mother of 1 son and 2 bonus children. I got 9 grandkids and 4 great grandkids who affectionately call me Cece. I am the daughter of my mother, who is 93 years old. I always love celebrating her. A sibling of 8. And then my nieces and nephews affectionately call me Aunt Carrie. And so I'm a recently published author of Watch Your Words. And my mantra is, what you articulate, you activate. But Deborah, I am a retired educator of 39 years that I taught in our Dallas, 28 in the ISD and the other 11 in the Dallas County Juvenile. I am a minister at Pathway of Life, and I am my sister's friend, Deborah D. Smith.
Woo! Eat your heart out, girls. Eat your hearts out.
My friend and my sister.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you so much for that. And yeah, we'll talk about your book a little bit more at the end, because we got to talk about that book.
Got to get that book out there.
Well, okay. So again, we're going to be talking about styling. Good evening, Yvonne. Thank you for tuning in. So a video, getting with a partner, having a set of index cards, reading, engaging a parent with a child, going to a lab. These are all different styles of how someone might study for a test.
Mhm.
Oh, some of y'all didn't know where I was going with that, did you? So what this indicates is that not everyone learns the same way. People have different learning styles.
Mhm.
So Carol, did you
Mhm.
see one of learning style as you were out there as an educator? Did you see more of one type of learning style than the others?
Well, Deborah, education is always evolving. Things are changing. And so I'm a retired teacher. And 20 years ago, we were able to start recognizing how important it was to be able to decide or look and see the different learning styles. Because now I'm a math teacher. And so we would always just kind of gravitate toward the visual, showing charts and maps and making sure that kids understood the formulas. And so when I think about it, back then, the learning styles we were just getting into those things where we understood the visual, we understood auditory, and we understood kinesthetic, which we called in the beginning, it was more like tactile and those kind of things. So did I see more? Probably. Being able to recognize it at that time, I probably didn't pay that much attention, unfortunately, because it's 20 years ago, and we were just kind of getting into trying to make sure we were incorporating all of them. So in math, probably it was more visual that we lean toward because this may be new for some of the newer teachers. We had boards, blackboards, green boards, chalkboards, and those kind of things. So we had a lot of opportunity to send children to the board, and for some reason the kids always enjoyed being able to go to the board and kind of teach us. That was their way of kind of reading it back to us or sharing it back to us. So to answer the question, in math, it probably was a lot of auditory, visual, and then we started trying to learn a little bit about kinesthetic. So uh, I guess that kind of answers your question. Did I see more of one learning style? But yes, we did. And so for that reason, what style was this? I think probably more of the learning, more of leaning more toward visual and auditory probably was more the ones that we gravitated toward, or that the kids gravitated toward, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So what is your learning style? And explain, why it's your preferred or your best style.
Probably mine was more auditory because I need to hear it, but I also recognize after looking at this, I needed to write it. So for me, it was it was auditory, but I could see all of these learning styles kind of coming together because we utilize a lot of them. But probably I need to hear it, but I need me some notes to write it down, because for some reason, even if I'm writing it while I hear it, I need to go back and relook and see what I actually wrote, if that makes sense to you, because um, it was. And now I did sometimes, now I even think sometimes I'm trying to look at what they're putting on the screen and then write it down. And I'll be like, oh, I done missed that one. So it really is more of my auditory and my note taking that I probably would say was my preferred learning style. But I do know this, Deborah, even as a teacher, I think we all I think we will gravitate toward what we are more comfortable with our own personal learning style. But as I reflect back and as I begin to do the research on the new updated version of these things, it can be kind of detrimental if we as a teacher just gravitate toward my learning style. And I think that becomes a disadvantage if we don't try to move in to understand all of the different learning styles. And sometimes we do push more toward that one, but I think we have to begin to know that there are other learning styles. And I probably think the teachers nowadays are so accustomed to that because they've been taught that throughout college and those kind of things. So I think that, when I think back, I think, well, I did push more toward my own learning style. And I think that could be a disadvantage. I think back then we kind of did a lot of rote stuff in math. You sit at that table and you learn them 5 timetables till you get out. So till you got them together. And so, like I said, being a math teacher, that probably was, we did a lot of rote kind of thing, but I'm just not really sure now if that's the total way to get it done. I think you have to be able to understand the way all children learn and to be able to incorporate that in a day's lesson so that we won't miss that. Because I think when we think about it, we had the big push for No Child Left Behind. And that's what you're talking about today. You want a solid education. And a solid education, I wrote this down, this is just a well-rounded quality education for all children who should have access to a solid education with a strong foundational skills. That's what we want: equal opportunity, equal ways of learning for every child, and that no child feels like that their style is lesser than any other style.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Love it. Well, Carol, in a classroom where you have 20 to 30 students, how would educator manage when you got all these students and they're using all 3 or all 4 learning styles? How do you keep up and make sure that everyone gets what they need?
Well, Deborah, can you put the chart back up? Because I think I didn't kind of go over that, because I think that's important that we do know that all of these different learning styles are so important. And when we think about each one of them, I want to just kind of read. It says, if you talk about a visual learner, that learner is the one who's learned by seeing charts, graphs, graphic organizer, lesson outlines, pictures, aids, PowerPoints. Auditory learners learn by hearing, read aloud, listening centers, verbal instruction, discussion, repeat to a friend. That is so important. Repeating to a friend, share with each other. Then here's the other one. And all of these has an acronym of BARC: visual, auditory, read, write. Read, write simply means learn by reading and writing, books and texts and dictionaries, note taking. And then the last one, which 20 years ago is tactile, but they put them together and it's kinesthetic. And they learn by doing and incorporating body movement, tactile touch, feel, and hands-on. So basically, to answer your question about 20 or 30 kids, you can take it down, 20 or 30 kids, you have to make sure that you are putting them together. It wouldn't be fair to isolate those kids, because I learn by listening and you learn by visualization and those kind of things. But if you put them all together, all 20 or 30 of them, you got to try to put them together in order for those learning styles to be implemented. And that sometimes, like I say, kids with kids can learn a lot better than sometimes the instructor or the teachers giving them all of the information. And I do know now that 20 or 30 kids in a classroom, that's quite a bit. But I've seen them where they put them in stations, let them go in station in groups and those kind of things. So you have to begin to make a variation and be able to put the children where they can best learn. Now, this is what I do know. 20 years ago, we wanted quiet classes. We wanted, everybody's paying attention, looking at the board, all of that. But now I believe classrooms are movement. I've subbed sometimes and I was like, oh, Lordy Jesus, what are these kids doing? But that's how they've grown up, being able to move and go from station to station. And one of them can be working on, adding and putting shapes together and those kind of things. So you have to have a variety of ways to learn. And like I said, I look at the classrooms now. It looks nothing like we had 20 years ago. Kids are moving, kids are talking, they are communicating with one another. Now, are you going to have some discipline problem? Probably, but basically putting them all together where all of the learning styles, all of the even the different abilities, don't try to put all slow kids with slow kids. You have a variety, because the children can begin to learn from one another, and your really bright student sometimes can help that other slow student and help them understand a little bit better than you. So to me, nowadays, I believe teachers become facilitators, where they've got to be shifting and moving. And I laugh, I said, because nowadays the teachers got on jeans and tennis shoes and that kind of thing. That's probably why, because they are going to be having to shift and move around and not just be where it's one person. And of course, now, we had the boards, and now they got these documents readers where they can put stuff on the board and put stuff out there and have kids to come up and it's more of an interactive classroom, I think. And I think that's one of the ways that you have to learn how to deal with 20 or 30 children.
Awesome. That's what we need to do to make sure our kids are engaged. Now, as we talk about the different learning styles, as I was preparing, I kept seeing the visual and the auditory and the kinesthetic. Is it
kinesthetic? Yeah. I know.
Yeah, but I didn't see that much of the read-write. But then I started thinking about it, that's just repetitively reading or writing to learn something. And I think sometimes as you get older, you might have to do that, because I remember for one of my humanities classes, I took a course about James Bond. And I don't know why humanities scared me, but I thought, that'd be fun. I'll take that one. So I took this class about James Bond. So first day of class, the professor was like, so in this class, it's about James Bond, but it was starting from the very first James Bond, going through each one by decades. And so in that decade, you had to know who the James Bond was, how they dressed, the type of music, all this stuff, clothing they wore. And the professor was like, and this is a memorization class. If you can't remember, if you have a hard time remembering things, you need to withdraw today. Hey, and I was like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? I better withdraw. And he just kept saying that, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I said, okay, I'm gonna try it. That was the best class. But how I learned, I wrote it down. So I would write that stuff down about those decades and the information about James Bond, and when you connect the music to it and the clothes styles and the hairstyles, it was really fun. And then I had to pick one of those decades and do a movie. So I really enjoyed the class. About an A, but I was really scared. So thank God for reading and writing.
But you were able to incorporate all four of those learning styles that when, from taking the class, you had the auditory, you had the visual, you were acting and moving and like you say, reading and writing things down. So yes. And that to me, that's why I said a lot of times we can't, they said a lot of times there's theories to some of these, but you have to find what works for you. You got to know. And as a young kid, they may not know, and that's important for the teachers to help them identify what their learning style is. But when you put that on there about read and write, I was like, what? Read and write? I was like, that could be my learning style. But when I looked at this and I did a little bit more looking at that, and they said that one was kind of implemented to help our dyslexic kids. I hadn't thought about that. And then they put that there because sometimes they, associating and reading and writing could be reading for them could be difficult. So it could be a way that would help them. But when I looked at that, I was like, well, I didn't think about a disability. I just thought about this is good because this is kind of what I'm visual, but I need to write me some stuff down. If I read it, I don't know about you, but every book I have, my friend used to tell me, girl, can't nobody read your books after you finish with them because I'm writing in the book, highlighting. And
Highlighting.
that's highlighting. And so I said, but I think that's important that we help children learn and identify what their best style of learning is. It's just a way that we gather information. And if that's the way you best gather information, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think to help them be familiar with it, because I did a workshop. I didn't do the workshop. I went to one years ago, and I'll never forget, this was a college professor. And so she was talking about different types of learning style, but she was saying, once a kid get in college, they better know what was a special ed workshop. You better know what your IEP, your individual education plan is. And I think so with learning style, you by the time you get there, by the time you get to high school, you should have somewhat of an idea that it's your best way. It's personal for you of learning. And so when you know that, you don't necessarily look for somebody else to embrace your learning style because you know it. And so as they say, you got to step up and say, this is how I know I learn best. And you talk about this a lot, Deborah, and we take responsibility for that. And as parents, I think we have to know what our children's learning style is to help reinforce what they do and let them know it's okay. It's okay how you learn. It's just your way. It's your personal way. We're all different, but we all can, learn some things that are like for each one of us that can help all of us grow. So yeah, that read and write, that one was that one helped me. I was like, okay, maybe this was me back then. So anyway.
Yeah, that's good. I liked it. And good evening, Agnes. Thank you for tuning in. So did you have any interaction with students who studied the read write? Well, I guess you basically answered this question for me, and it was like, give me your thoughts about the reading, writing style. So you did answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, did I see kids like that? As we were talking, I thought about this young lady, and I cannot think, she was from Somalia or I can't remember, but she was from another country, had very little English. But they say math is universal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that young lady, I'm telling you, she had like I said, those kids that have difficulty with reading and writing, but she would take her notebook, and I'll tell you, if she didn't have that thing color coded for her, she had her notes that were specifically. Now I might not could understand her writing, but she had it specifically for her. So yes, we've seen students like that, and so never putting it to the fact that it was a read write learning style, but it was her way, because we want them to have notebooks and have terms and definitions, but she took it and made it so personal. And when I saw it, I was like, girl, I'm putting this on display, because she had taken and kind of recognized that's what she needed to do to retain information. And formulas and steps was just all written down, girl, color coded and everything. I was like, you're teaching me something here. But yes, you see different types. And so we just have to really learn to identify it. And like you said, and begin to help them embrace and encourage the student. This is your learning style, and it's okay.
Good. Well, hello, Evelyn. I'm so glad you were able to find it. Good. I see you out there on YouTube. Way to go, girl.
Found us. Yeah. Hey, Elle.
All right. So we know everyone is not the same. Students should have the same opportunities, though, to comprehend regardless of their learning style. So please give us the most helpful tips for studying irrespective of how a person learns that will help them to succeed as they strive to build their best lives.
Like we said, the VARK, those are the 4 learning style. And so we have to make sure that if you're a kinesthetic learner, you know that you need some movement. And so, like I said, nowadays, I don't know about you, but if I've been studying too long, sometimes I just needed somebody to tell me, just get up and take a break, move around, come back to it. So if that is your student, or if that is you, know it's okay that you can get up, take a break, and then come back to what it is, because your learning style really is how you learn best. Like I said, it's how you learn best. If you're an auditory learner, how does this apply to you? Auditory learners involve learning through hearing and sound. So it applies to different learning styles by catering to the individual who understands the information by hearing it and being able to retain it. So kinesthetic, you need to move around. Hearing it, you need to, that's the best way. So they're going to be an attentive listener. They're going to be able to listen and then write things down. Even visual, that's the way that if you're a visual learner, you need to be looking for those charts. And sometimes you got to make up your own chart and make up the ways that you can best remember. You've seen kids who draw pictures, and that's a way that they are using their visualization and being able to, like I say, use color-coded things. That's going to best help them be able to identify that kind of thing, identify or be able to learn. If you're a reading right learner, you identify your learning style. It helps you determine whether you learn best through visual aids, or auditory cues, physical activities, reading, writing activities. All of those have to be put together. And it's just where we just have to help the learner identify their most crucial way of learning. And then as teachers, we have to try to accommodate that in the classroom by looking at the content, varying the content, varying the activities, varying even assessment sometimes, because nowadays all kids don't take assessments with reading and writing and plugging in. So, nowadays they can take tests online, and they can have a visual, auditory reading and being able to read to them. So for me, if I would tell parents, know your child's learning style. And that means you can begin to look at them. And there's so many, there's even tests out there that you can take that will help you identify very early on, because, it's important that everyone must work, have an understanding of how they learn, how you learn. That's key. It helps you, it helps parents, it helps teachers to understand what every child, or what's the best learning style for every child. And you have to make sure that, like I said, if you're visual, know that you need some techniques, you need some organizers, some visuals that you can remember to have. And I love the color code stuff, because it really gives more of an enhancing of what you need to pay attention to. But you can come up with your own color code or whatever. Auditory, listening is important. And that if you're listening, even when a teacher is teaching to an auditory child, you just can't be monotone to them. You got to do some inflections. You may have to act out some things in order for them to get their attention. So you just have to make sure that you're approaching them in ways that they're going to learn. Like I say, the kinesthetic person, let them get up and move. Let them, we used to have kids on the floor, reading on the floor. And you'll see that now sometimes. They're reading on the floor, or they're doing things on the floor, because they need the ability to move around. And then once again, we go to the read and write. You got to be able to have, pencil, paper for them. They hear, but they still need to be able to decipher that and be able to put it down into ways that they're going to understand. So variation for everybody. Everybody needs to know what their learning style is. And I believe that if we encourage kids to use, to monopolize and take advantage, and don't think that you are different because you learn very different. God created us all but he knew that each one of us were individually and wonderfully made. So we have to make sure that we encourage our children to know that it's okay. And just when they get older, start helping them know nobody's responsible for making those adjustments all the time for you. You take some responsibility. If you know what kind of learner you are, you take responsibility and you do what it takes to make you an informed person and to make you a successful person. So everybody has a responsibility in educating and in making sure that they are getting a solid education, because that's what we want. And so we want everybody to feel like there's no child going to be left behind. I know that's an old one, but that's the whole thing, that we don't want them left behind, but making sure that they're not left behind. We can't always depend on one person to give them everything that they need. So interaction with other kids, other children, let them interact. Multiple styles of learning, variety methods of getting information and content has to be understood. But students learn best when instructors select the content, when they select the activities, when they, do the variation with the assessments, and then, of course, making sure that we know that each child is different. So use those strategies. Don't hesitate to encourage. And sometimes the children have to encourage themselves, but we have to make sure as adults we're building their self-esteem, and we're building them up to know that because you're different don't mean that you can't learn.
That's right. That's awesome stuff. So I hope y'all got all those tips. If you didn't have an opportunity to write them down, you can always go back and look at the rewind and get your notes. But please make sure that you share this. I think this was some great information, because a lot of parents, they don't know the different learning styles. So now this is something to you can go back and look at your child like, oh, okay, I got it now. Because sometimes we try to put our kids in a box and make them do things the same way, and they're different. Just like Carol said, they're differently, uniquely, and wonderfully made, and so they have their own style and their own way of doing things and learning. So we shouldn't try to push them to do what they're not comfortable doing.
Yeah, we have to let them be who they are. That's how God made them. And I think that's what we looked at 20 years ago. We were trying to make all kids be the same, learn the same. But now we've got a new and a better way that I think it can help them become more successful if we, and like I said, I realize I'm kind of 20 years back, but I do realize that this teachers are really trying to get that done in the classroom now. And I want to applaud our teachers today, because I'm serious. They've got a job to do. But when I've gone back and sub, and then all this moving and shaking was going on, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? Oh my God, what are y'all doing? But then you realize that is the way they are allowing them to individually learn, use their learning style, and it is okay. So a lot of the younger teachers now, they've been acclimated to that. They've grown in that. They understand the touchy-feely kind of thing. And so I think that is great, because like I said, when I look back 20 years ago, and I was like, man, these kids, we didn't allocate for a lot of that. And so we learned that. And thank God we learned it, and thank God kids got the opportunity now. And it's been 20 years ago. So, it's come, as they say, it's come a long way, but I'm glad to see that it is an opportunity for teachers and parents and all of us to understand, even as adults, to understand your learning style, because I think that's important, that we as adults know our learning style as well.
Yep. And I'm going to say something, but I want to say hello, Sybil. Thank you for tuning in. I think this is the first time I've seen you out here, so I am so glad to see you here today. But it's funny that you said that about the difference, because for probably the last 20, 30 years, I've taught the children, not the smaller ones. Well, Sunday, I was telling you, nobody showed up, so I ended up teaching the We Worshipers. That's the kindergartners. It
Okay.
took me 10 minutes to get them in the chairs because they kept trying to go sit on the rug. And I was like, y'all get up and come to the table. Get up. And I get one table up and I looked and some more down there on the floor. But that was, I guess, their teacher probably always let them sit on the floor. So that's what they wanted to do. But I was determined to get them in those chairs.
So, Deborah, we have to change our way of thinking, right? Because that was the way that we were accustomed to a classroom looking. But now it looks nothing like the older traditional or even how we learn. So, yeah, those babies will not sit. And they are that because they've been trained and acclimated to a moving classroom. And so, yes, I decided I'd hang up my sub stuff because I was like, oh my goodness. But it is. And I like I said, I do like seeing that they are accommodating. And that's one way to accommodate and make sure that every child is being, the learning style is being appreciated and taught toward, and that, the kids are getting that opportunity and not, like you say, stuck in this one box, one mode of learning. Get up there and do it this way. Sit in your seat. Pay attention. Don't you remember those words coming out? Look, I need you to pay attention. I need you to look this way. Not anymore, because that is the way. That's not the way that they learn. And so we just got to make those accommodations, make those adjustments, because it is so key that if we want kids to have a solid education, it's going to take a styling with the learning styles.
All right. Styling. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you tune in Thursday for Let's Collab. We are going to be collaborating. Okay. But before Carol gets out here, Carol, tell us all about what's going on new with you.
Well, the latest of what's going on new with me, Deborah, is I'm excited to say that my book finally got published, and it is called Watch Your Words. And I've just been so excited about the sale of the books and some of the things some feedback that I'm getting back on from the book. And that was my goal, is that this book would help everybody understand how important it is that we watch our words. So if you want a copy, thank you, Deborah, for putting that up. You can cash out me at $ Carol, CROC, or Zelle me or PayPal me at 469-682-4857. I'll be happy to send you one out. It's $22.95, and if I have to mail it, and please make sure you send me your address so I can get that sent out to you. And so I'm just kind of busy tootling along. I'm getting ready to start what I call my Bible study fellowship that I've done for years, and I've enjoyed that. Still kind of helping out and ministering at my church, what I truly love, and just an opportunity to, at this time, just be a workman for the Lord. And that is my ultimate goal, that I want at the end of this road, or at the end of this journey, I do hear well done, whatever I put my hands to. So I'm grateful to be able to share what God's word, or through my book, the word, Watch Your Word, and even helping my sister on her coffee chats. I truly enjoy doing that, and I'm grateful. So yes. Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming on today. And everyone, as always, check out my website. It's www.buildyourbestlife.org. Read my blog, check out my calendar, go to my store, coaching, consultations, speaking, webinar speaking, and you can get an autographed copy of my book, Build Your Best Life, and Kindle version, Amazon.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and share. Be blessed. And remember, building your best life is our business. That's not a slogan. It's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. See you Thursday, hopefully. And thank you so much, sis.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it. Bye-bye.
Bye.